Part 7 of my heraldic tour of the cloister covers Bay 15, which was constructed by my estimation between March and April 1411. The bay sits roughly in the middle of the west walk and contains 32 heraldic shields plus one badge. The arms on the central boss are for Richard Plantagenet, later Earl of Cambridge, the younger brother of the Duke of York, his paternal arms differenced with a border of Leon, that is, argent semi of lions purpure, his mother having been Isabella of Castile and Leon. His arms are given prominence here because he was married to Archbishop Arundel's great niece, Anne Mortimer, who sadly died following childbirth the same year that this bay was constructed. Richard, who had been a godson of King Richard II, was executed for treason by Henry V in 1415, and shortly afterwards his brother, the Duke of York, was killed at Agincourt. The only son of Richard and Anne thus became the next Duke of York at a tender age, having inherited through his mother an important claim to the throne based on descent from the second son of Edward III. In the male line, the Yorks were only descended from the fourth son. This duke's antipathy towards the House of Lancaster, which had killed his father, might well have been one of the prime reasons why he went on to start the Wars of the Roses. And it's because of the historical significance of this shield that I have called this the York Bay. His arms are surrounded by those of the four sons of Henry IV, a repeat from the previous bay, excepting that the Crown Prince Henry is additionally represented at number 13 with the three ostrich feathers that are the shield of peace of the Prince of Wales. At 34 is the York kinsman Richard Despenser, the son of Constance Plantagenet, who was the sister of the two brothers of the House of York who died under very different circumstances in 1415. Thomas Burton of Rutland, whose 3 owls are at number 18, was a retainer of the House of York, and a neighbour of Sir Thomas Culpeper of Bayhall in Kent, who held at Exton in Rutland, and whose arms of Culpeper quartering Hartshill are at 38. Culpeper in turn was a kinsman of Ralph Green of Northamptonshire, whose arms are at number 8, and he in turn was a kinsman of William Lord Zouche, who is at number 6. Zouche's second wife was a Despenser, linking him to the House of York. There is a nice connection with the author of the Canterbury Tales, Geoffrey Chaucer, at number 4, with the Griffin Ermine of Gregory Ballard of Kent, chief steward of the lands of Archbishop Arundel, and a friend of Chaucer. Inevitably, there are many other connections with the Archbishop in the bay. These include at 9 the saltire of Robert Neville of Hornby in Yorkshire, who had served Archbishop Arundel as his steward when he was Archbishop of York. At number 30 is the Holland badge of the white hind on a green background, which belonged at this time to the Archbishop's sister Alice, the Dowager Countess of Kent, whose sons were by this time deceased. The same badge was later placed for her daughter Margaret Holland above her tomb in the cathedral's Holland chantry. In the same year that this bay was constructed, Margaret married the Prince Thomas, whose arms are at number 14. 2 cardinals were placed in the bay by the Archbishop. His remote predecessor at Canterbury, Robert Kilwardby, at 26, and his friend Bishop Robert Hallam at 27. At 16 we have the distinctive lapdog arms of Archbishop Simon Sudbury, a generous cathedral benefactor who was brutally murdered during the Peasants' Revolt of 1381. There is a connection with Thomas Becket at number 23 in the guise of the 3 horses' heads of the family of Deborah of Somerset, who were descended from the brother of one of Becket's murderers, Reginald Fitzurse. Immediately adjacent to these arms at 24 are the conjoined wings of the Deborah family's neighbours in Somerset, the War family of Hestercombe. And to conclude, we have here the arms of 2 men who had recently been royal bailiffs of Canterbury. Firstly, at number 2, and now lost, were the 3 lions of Thomas Chich, who was bailiff and MP for Canterbury in 1404, and whose family had already been associated with the cathedral priory for centuries. Secondly, at 33 are the 3 otters of John Proud, who was many times bailiff of Canterbury. His is one of the more significant shields in the cloister because of the great controversy caused when Thomas Willimant recorded the 3 otters as having fish in their mouths in his historic notices of Canterbury Cathedral, published in 1827. This observation enraged his contemporary historian Thomas Streatfield, because the fish were no longer visible at this time. They were recorded by several antiquarian sources, a fact which Willimant had failed to mention. You will find a great deal more information in the pages of my book, Great Cloister, A Lost Canterbury Tale, published by Archaeopress in 2020. It's more than just a book about the cloister, as it goes into considerable detail about each unique shield, tracing its origins. You will find here many of the great families of England up to the reign of Henry IV, and also the European kingdoms. It comprises over 700 pages, including 771 illustrations, 37 pedigrees and a detailed index. You are seeing here just a small selection of the pages. Shortly you will see on the screen details of how to find it. If you would like me to undertake research on your own family, I can be contacted via my personal website, drpaulfoxfsa.com. And finally, do please subscribe to my history and heraldry channel on YouTube, which of course costs you nothing, so that you can follow additions to my list of talks.